and welcome to NNC World News. I'm Jessica Hadachek, reporting from our studio in San Francisco, California. The weather here is delightful. It's sunny with low fog around the bridge. As always, we have our travel investigators, Paige Lane and Micaiah Johnson, reporting from the field. Also, we have Kajal Patel, our scene reenactor. Today, we're looking into the history and evolution of China. Our story begins in the 1500s, when the Portuguese first discovered China. But Paige will take you back much further than that.
Ancient Chinese history begins with the Qin dynasty, which lasted from 2021 to 206 BC. With the Qin dynasty came the Great Wall of China and terracotta warriors. The next dynasty from 206 BC to 2020 AD was the Han dynasty. During this time, the focus was put on advancing science, technology, and medicine while trading through the Silk Road. The third dynasty was the Ming dynasty from 1368 to 1644. And was also referred to as the Brilliant Dynasty. The Forbidden City, which took 14 years to construct, and the Temple of Heaven were built during the 1400s, and added improvements on the Great Wall was also during this Ming Dynasty.
This just in. Portuguese have landed on Chinese soil. The year is 1514. And lucky for you, Micaiah Johnson, one of our field investigators, is there with our scene reenactor, Kajal Patel, to tell us more about the story.
Thanks for the introduction, Jessica. I'm here with one of the first Portuguese settlers, Kajal Patel. What are your thoughts on China so far, and are you planning on staying?
I was happy to be here in this beautiful country, but I'm not going to be staying here anymore because I'm not colonizing after China.
Oh, you're not colonizing China?
No.
Okay. Well, back to you, Paige Lane over.
The final dynastic rule was from 1644 to 1911 and was called the Qing dynasty. Initially, taxes were lowered, but high taxes and corruption began in the 1700s, which, combined with other events, eventually leads to the fall of dynastic rule altogether.
Modern Chinese history begins in the 1500s. During this time, China practiced isolationism, which is the policy of remaining apart from the political affairs of other countries. Once the Portuguese landed in China, the Chinese really wanted nothing to do with them or other European countries. In the 1700s, we see China practicing isolationism. They do this against the British, who continuously try to come into China and help them. With strong British persistence, they soon find their way into China. Britain brings imperialism, an industrial revolution, opium, and unfortunately, an opium war which leads to the signing of unequal treaties, otherwise known as the Nanking Treaty. The British brought opium into China and got the majority of the population addicted to that drug, in hopes that it would increase trade between the two countries. The Chinese tried to practice isolationism to keep the British and opium out of their country, but it didn't work very well. From 1839 to 1842, the British and the Chinese fought in the Opium War. The British, with much stronger weapons and manpower, won the war. After the war, the two countries signed the unequal treaties, or Treaty of Nanking. These treaties stated that Hong Kong would be given to the British to use as a port in trading goods that the Chinese had to allow the British to use other ports to trade through. Extraterritoriality and payment to Britain from China for war losses.
Another breaking news report. Our scene reenactor, Kajal Patel, is on the site where these treaties are being signed. How's it going, Kajal?
China is upset and Britain is happy because they are signing the treaties.
To wrap up China's recent history, we will pick up right where Kajal and Paige left us. In 1911, China went through their first revolution. Emperor Si Chai died in 1908 and left behind a child emperor, which led to the fall of the dynastic era. Dr. Sun Yat-sen took control of the country and introduced nationalism, democracy, and economic prosperity. 1911 through 1949 are referred to as China's chaos years because little leadership was being expressed in the country. From 1912 to 1916, China was under the leadership of a dictator. From 1916 to 1923, China was under control of multiple warlords fighting for power. Chiang Kai-shek came into power in China in 1923 and was a nationalist. Then Mao Zedong came into power and he brought the idea of communism to China. When China fell under communism, we start to see the China that still exists today, a country in which very little modernization takes place. The Long March took place from 1934 to 1935 and was a military retreat undertaken by the Red Army of the Communist Party of China to chase nationalists out of the country of China. In 1939, Japan invaded China during the World War II. Micaiah will finish our modern Chinese history now.
After World War II, a civil war in China broke out between the nationalists and the communists. The nationalists were led by Kai-shek, and the communists were led by Mao. The communists won, and Mao Zedong came into power in 1949 and started his first 5-year plan in 1953. In the beginning, Mao Zedong's leadership seemed beneficial. But come 1958, the Great Leap Forward caused 20 million people to die of starvation, communes, and many backyard steel productions. From 1966 to 1976, a cultural revolution develops and leaves Mao not feeling confident in his power. He was concerned on the growing interest in capitalism and the increase in party corruption. Mao put together a group of communist young adults known as the Red Guard. These individuals would attack anyone they suspected to be against the Communist Party. 1 million people were killed and millions more jailed and tortured. In 1976, the Red Guard ends along with the death of Chairman Mao.